So once you're sending out short fiction to markets, to magazines and journals, what's going to happen is that they're going to get rejected. That doesn't mean they're all get rejected. You'll get it rejected all the time, but no one gets accepted all the time. Everyone gets rejected most of the time. You have to deal with that. And basically, if you want to be a writer, you have to learn to accept rejections and cope with them. This is a little video about doing that. All of the arts are involve massive amounts of rejection. Be thankful you're a writer and not an actor, so they don't reject you right to your face. Right to your face. So you're auditioning for you're acting out, and then you can see they're not feeling it. Yes, stand-up comedians get rejection. Everybody sees. You get a little note in your email that says thanks. We're not publishing this story. Almost nothing gets published at the first place you send it unless you have an agent. If you have an agent, don't watch this video. You don't need my advice. You've got an agent. Move along. You're gonna have to persist in terms of rejection. Let me talk about some practical things to do. What do you do when you get rejected? Nothing. You you do not answer back. Even to say thank you, their inbox is already huge and stuffed. It's a nice gesture to try to say thank you politely, but don't. You never argue or try to talk them into it. In publishing, no means no, just as it does in the outside world. If you get a no, take the no, move along, try them again another time, send the story to someone else. That is the thing to do. Now, it's going to hurt, and you have to kind of build up a callus against rejection. And even then, sometimes it's just, you don't love it. It's never exciting. Here's the first thing: you haven't lost anything. The consequences of having a short story rejected by a magazine are exactly the same as the consequences of never sending a story to that magazine. You were not in that magazine, and now you are still not in that magazine. You didn't lose anything. You can only gain. If you only get one acceptance out of 100 submissions, totally possible, totally feasible, or 200 submissions, could happen. You have something where you were otherwise gonna have nothing. Yes? Okay. Also, remember that no one's gonna come and take away your ink. They're not gonna ban you from writing unless you write back and argue with them. Then they will never read anything else you send them, and they will be correct. They will be right within their limits. Now, remember, everybody who's accepting short stories has imagine they have a massive pile that the first person trying to read through this pile and pile of stories, whether electronic or physical, has hundreds of stories to get through in no time. Now, are you imagining that? Good, because you're underestimating it. They just have an endless pile of stories. They cannot possibly take even more than a tiny fraction. We're talking about routine, 1% admission, 1% acceptance rates are routine. 0.5% acceptance rates are routine. Does this mean it's a lottery? If you just send somebody 200 stories, you will get in there? No, no. And also, places will not generally not allow you to send them 200 short stories in a single year. That is frowned upon. It is not random, or rather, it's this. Some people think of publishing as a sheer meritocracy. The best work will automatically shine and get through, and that is partly the truth and partly not. Some people think of it as a lottery. It's like the numbers are against you, so you've got to get the numbers up there. Tiny percent of the truth, it's not. It is neither. It's most helpful to think as part meritocracy and part lottery, by which I mean your story has to be good enough to get to the lottery phase. Your story has to be good enough and appropriate for what that place needs, what their style, what their prevailing style is, what their literary taste is, what length they need at this particular moment, how your story is going to go with other stories they have already slotted in to the next issue or for whatever issue they're considering your story for. Then you've got a chance. If your story is good enough and a right fit for the place, then you have a chance to compete with the much smaller group of other stories that are very, very good and an appropriate fit. You get to gamble. Um, you will get so don't fret. There is good stories get rejected all the time. Bad stories get rejected forever or almost forever. Don't rush too fast to a place that you think will absolutely publish you no matter what. You probably don't want to be there. And if you think you're above them, they probably won't like your work either, right? That you think you're above them because you think their work stinks. You think what they publish stinks. That's probably because their taste, they actually prefer that thing that you don't like. Leave them alone. Move along. Rejections come in three forms. First, two of them are forms. You will get a polite pre-phrased note says thank you for your interest or something like that. We can't use this, no, 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 not this time, blah blah blah, and that's okay. That means they're being polite and they're not attempting to encourage you. Does that mean they don't want to hear from you and you should not send to them again? You should totally send to them again. I have gotten form notes, the polite, no encouragement, move along kid form from places that later accepted me. That is totally okay and normal. There is, oh my God, there is, and actually, and if you get a form, that's it. You got a form. Don't talk to them. They don't remember. They don't have time. They sent you the form because they don't have time to give you feedback. There is sometimes the more encouraging form. It has some kind of vaguer compliment in there, or direct compliment, though won't be very specific to your story. Oh, we like this. There's much to admire here, blah, blah, blah. And we'll say something about, hey, keep us in mind, send again, etc., etc. Take that as actual encouragement. And also, you must keep track of your rejections. First of all, you never, never want to send a rejected story back to that magazine. Once they've said no, they've said no. It's forever, unless they specifically said rewrite this and try again. If they said no, they said no. You need to keep track if you do enough submissions. You need to keep track to make sure you don't send them something they've already rejected. Don't do that. Don't be that person. You also want to keep track of when you got the more encouraging note for which story, at which magazine. Remember that. Rarest of all is the personal rejection. When an editor writes back, signs it, says hello, they might say a little something about the story. It won't be much. They don't have time for that. They certainly don't have time to give you extensive feedback on stories they're not going to buy. They just don't have time for that. But they are encouraging you, and if they're sending you those personal, send them again. Send to them again. Not right away. They're not like you're not going to the window's not going to close. In fact, don't send until you really have something ready that's really your best work. You should never send anything but your best work. Are you going to rack up a lot? Sure. I mean, dude, I'm looking at a rejection note right now. It's taped. It's taped to my monitor. Every time I'm talking to you here, I have I have a rejection letter in my line of sight. It's taped to the monitor where I can see it, though you can't. There are lots of reasons for stories not to get accepted. The rare thing is for them to be accepted at all. So this means, and don't tell your family how much you're getting rejected. They will not understand. Other writers, you will feel like I got 80 rejection letters this year. I'm no good. No, that's not what it means. That means you're paying your dues. Welcome to the minors, kid. This is how pro ball is played. um, when you get encouragement, when you get an acceptance, that is a sign that the story works. There's only one reason to take a story, in that the editors really, really like it. They think it's very effective. There's only one reason to give you encouragement of any kind, which is they like your work and think it's good. The reason to reject a story, even a good story, are manifold or nearly infinite. So don't worry about that. That's fine. Actually, it sounds strange. Tuning out the bad news and only paying attention to the positive reinforcement is the appropriate way to deal with the facts of publishing fiction. You will only be rewarded when you're good. Rejections can mean all kinds of things. If your story is terrible and not finished and ill thought out, it's going to get rejected too. If your story is great, it's also going to get rejected a lot. So don't overthink the rejections too much. Just focus on the positive.